Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
So today it's Memorial Day here, and you guys aren't going to see this video until after, though, unfortunately, but I want to say thank you for those who have laid down their lives, and I want their families to know that we appreciate the sacrifice and that it's not gone unnoticed. With that being said, I'm obviously out here working. I've got a 350Z that got dropped off here that I need to somehow do a complete flex fuel tune and get it done before Thursday. So the countdown is on. It's obviously it's Monday, so I've got to run a bunch of sensor wiring. We've got the cam lambda, fuel pressure, and E85 that needs to be done. This car's running a link ECU, and we've got a couple other things that need to be ran, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with that stuff first. So I've been busy at work here doing a ton of wiring. As you can see, we got the ECU all out, and on the 350Z plug-in, you actually have to take the ECU out of the case to get like this wiring done. So this is the CAN bus wiring here. So if you're looking at it, we've got this purple goes to yellow and black to green, and that's CAN high and CAN low on this connector. We've got fuel pressure here, and we've got flex fuel also in here as well. As you can see, that's all labeled. And then I tapped two pins off the ECU. So on the ECU itself, I grabbed ground from pin 115 and 120, and that comes off of the main ECU connector over here for power and ground. As you can see, I've got it here. So these are just hanging out for now, but I'm gonna go ahead and heat shrink these, and then we're gonna figure out how to attach all the power and ground wires. And then we've got to do two more handful of wires coming out of this other connector real quick. A lot of stuff going on here, but so we have all this wired in. We're not fully wired in, but on the ECU case side is done. So we've got flex fuel, and then we've got the fuel pressure. So on this, we've got blue and green is our sensor ground, black is sensor ground, and blue is our 5-volt reference signal, and that we've got green as our input signal. So we're going to tap into this wiring up here for the oil pressure, but we're out of inputs on the ECU side of it for the expansion, so we're gonna have to tap it into the main harness stuff, but I'm not even dealing with that right now. I've got to hook up power and ground for the CAN bus and power and ground for the flex fuel as well, which are going into these wires here. So it's gonna kind of do a number like this. But like I said, for now I'm just wrapping up the ECU so I can get the case all situated again. Okay, so we got the flex fuel and CAN wideband power and ground attached to this wire here. Plus I also left some spare wire coming out of it because I know there's a good chance they'll switch pulleys and have to add a boost controller. But that's wired up for now. Now it's just a matter of cleaning it all up. All right, sorry guys, I haven't been filming that much on this. We've just been really busy after our break, so filming has taken a step back versus me actually doing work. So this is the Supercharged Z. It's got a Pro Charger on it. It should be making 13 to 14 PSI, but the problem is that at peak, let me find the peak here, bear with me a second here. So you can see in this little graph right here that peak is about right here. So we're getting a total of 170 kPa whereas 70 kPa of that is boost, which works out to about 10 pounds of boost. However, if you also look, you can see that it begins to dip down, and as RPMs go up, it dips down to 65-ish, 64 or so, but that actually ends up working to be about 9.5 psi is where it ends up working out. That's one. The second problem is that this knock sensor is going absolutely crazy. I've already dumbed it down quite a bit, but this knock level hasn't changed, and we're running quite a bit of timing up top. Excuse me. So there's definitely a problem here. Now, whether the problem is, what the problem actually is, I don't know. So right now I've got the smoke test running. And okay, so we got a little bit of leakage from the bypass valve, which is normal. This is actually pretty normal here, because the bypass valve on a supercharger actually stays open while the car is running at idle. Basically, anytime it sees boost, it shuts off. So let me work on capping this off so we can continue our smoke test. So as you guys can see, we've got a minute leak over the MAF housing, it looks like. So we've got some smoke off the MAF housing. So that looks like that's part of our problem. The thing is that for it to be that small of a leak, maybe it could be, maybe it's that. So we're gonna take that back off and figure out how to seal it up. So this is what we found here. There is a little bit of play on this thing here, and so when it sits flush against that MAF pipe, it's almost I'd have to say maybe a 32nd of an inch or so, or maybe even a 64th, but it's barely any, it's barely there. But there is a noticeable gap when I hold it flush at the bottom. So that's definitely where it's leaking from. So we've got to figure out how to fix this in a jiff. It's already Tuesday, it's the end of Tuesday. So I've got Wednesday and Thursday to finish up this flex fuel tune, and I can't even get done. I'm not even done with 93 because this thing's leaking so damn bad. All right, so we got a new aluminum pipe here that Jeremiah welded up. So we got that fixed. We had a couple loose couplers, so we went ahead and fixed that. But the biggest thing that we cannot fix is the bypass valve itself is leaking. So the crazy thing is that it's actually leaking out of the shaft right here for the bypass valve. It's a very... Okay, so we got our boost leaks for the most part taken care of. The car's up to operating temp. We're gonna do our first pull of the day, and hopefully we get some type of boost. Okay, so that's our first pull. We're gonna end our log. I'm gonna review it really quick here. Hopefully we get more than what we had before, so we'll... Bad news, fellas. Unfortunately, in terms of boost, it's really about the same, even with that boost leak. So there's something else amiss here. All right, I've tightened the supercharger belt as much as I can. So we're just gonna hit it with another pull and see if we get anything else. The supercharger pulley is a bit hard, but I got it to move. Take a peek at this log here and see if we get anything else. Nope. Same deal. All right. I officially do not know what's wrong, but it's, I don't know. I have no idea. I really think it's the belt tension. The reason though is the belt tensioner is kind of a cool design, but it's kind of a not cool design at the same time. So you got these, there's 3 Allen heads, and you can see that this is slotted and you can push it back, and you can see that the belt's moving quite a bit. The problem is that I can't move it any further. Like, I've actually hit it with a hammer. I put a screwdriver here and hit it with a hammer and pushed it down to see if it would go anymore, but that's as much as I could get it. But even still, that seems like a lot of play to me for a belt. But All right, so we're about 330 horsepower right now. We're not making any more boost. So I guess what I'm going to do, we are still on 93 octane. So what I'm going to do here, if you guys remember, I don't have a working knock sensor. We are running quite a bit of timing in my opinion. I mean, we're in the 20s right now, and that's peak. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add 2 degrees of timing just overall. We're going to do one run and just see if it yields any more power. If it yields more power, then great. If it doesn't, then we know we're kind of at our limit. And then what I'm going to do is we're just going to kind of factor in if it's worth doing. Okay, I'm gonna look over the log and then we'll see what it makes on the dyno. Okay, so 3 more degrees yielded a 10 horsepower gain and a 2 foot-pound of torque gain. So I don't think that's really that good in my opinion. All right, so this is a back-to-back run. I pulled 3 more degrees of timing back down. So these 2 runs have the same exact timing. This could be from heat soak, not a big deal. But as you can see, it took 3 degrees to make any more decent power. So again, I just don't think it's worth it. So what we're gonna do now is we're just going to add some ethanol to it and just see what we get. All right, so we started setting up flex fuel. I haven't done a run yet, but I do have it set up on flex fuel right now. We're actually surprisingly on E30. All right, so I did a dyno run. We got a check engine light, which talks about the throttle code. So that's me stepping on the throttle. You see it's not doing anything, so yay.
Dude, it fucking works! It screams! Hold on. God damn, it feels good!